I have no interests, I have no units, I have no direct interest in any of these units. But when I read this Anthony Wilson's article, I realized that something is happening, and there appears to be an interest in getting clarity from the Minister of Finance on this matter. And that is why I said I am going to raise it with the Minister of Finance through you, Madam President, so that the Minister can bring some degree of clarity to the market and to those unit holders. So the question that we are trying to clarify is, what is the Minister as trustee? Because the government is the trustee of these units and the actual fund. The government is in charge. They are the trustees of the CIF. And therefore, they have a very important responsibility to indicate. Because what Anthony Wilson was indicating is whether there is going to be a trigger code effected, whether the government in the final analysis will take control of Republic Bank Limited. Because as I said, CIF 25%, NIF is 25%, and NIB is 20%, which gives you a tally of 70%. So the government needs to clear the air as to what it is doing. In fact, not being a stock market man, I did look at the price of the shares of RBL, and I saw just about 3 or 4 weeks ago, it was in the vicinity of $140 per share, $140. And just about a couple of days ago, it was at about 133. So there is some uncertainty in the marketplace. And therefore, there is a need for the government to clear the air as to what it is going to do. Is the government going to convert those units and allow the policyholders to have shares, which would be the equivalent of 25% of Republic Bank Limited? So the policyholders will become 25% owners of the RBL. Is the government going to pay cash and give some shares to the unit holders? Or is the government going to buy out the unit holders' shares and take the 25% shares of the CIF, along with the 25% in NIF, and with your control of NIB, trigger the takeover code, and Trinidad and Tobago government will be in charge of the Republic Bank Limited shares? So I think it's important as a nation for us to clear the air on behalf of these citizens and the country as to where we are going. As I said, Madam President, I am not a unit holder. I have no interest, but because of this article, it generated my concern, and I said I will bring it to the attention of the Minister of Finance so that there can be some clarification on going forward. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Let me just read the matter, lest people become confused or misled by the utterances of the Honorable Senator Mark. The matter is the need for the government to provide a status report on the provisions of Article 19 of the CLICO Investment Trust Deed, giving the impending termination of the CLICO Investment Fund. Now, Madam President, I do wish one day I would come into this honorable chamber and something said by Honorable Senator Mark would be true. Today is not one of those days. For the record, if one looks at the establishment of the CLICO Investment Trust, the units were given a face value of $25, not $30 or $31, as Senator Mark erroneously declared. I have no idea where Senator Mark gets his information from. In fact, I don't want to know. All I know is that it's always wrong. The value at which the CLICO Investment Fund units trading most recently is $28.54. So that the units are now worth more than they were when they were first issued under the CLICO Investment Fund Declaration of Trust on the 31st day of October in 2012, which is when Senator Mark was associated with a former government. So that when that trust was launched, the face value of the units was $25. Let me make that crystal clear. It's now $28.54, and there have been a series of distributions since then, dividend payments on the CIF units from 2012 to now. So I don't think it is fair to even insinuate that holders of CIF units have lost out over the period. Secondly, the information that Senator Mark gave on the value of Republic Bank shares, also wrong. The value of Republic Bank shares, Republic Financial Holdings Limited, the last sale trade was at $137.60, not $127, not $130, $137.60. So everything that Senator Mark said was incorrect. Thirdly, everything is contained in the Declaration of Trust, which was created by and put into the system by the former UNC administration. And I would ask Senator Mark, rather than coming here to carry on and speculate based on wild statements made by his journalist friend, he would read. So let me go into the records now. The CLICO Investment Fund was established by the government as a mechanism to redeem the 11 to 20-year series of bonds issued to holders of short-term investment products sold by Colonial Life Insurance Company and British American Insurance Company. The CLICO Trust Corporation was established as a wholly owned state enterprise and is the trustee of the CIF and is governed by a trust deed. The CIF is a closed-end fund comprising of 204 million units, which is traded on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. The fund has a life of 10 years, all of that in the document that was created by the UNC administration, which the Honorable Senator should have read, with a redemption date of January the 2nd, 2023. The CIF consists of a mix of 40,072,299 Republic Financial Holdings Limited shares and government bonds with a face value of 702,867,000 with a coupon of 4.25% and a term of 25 years. Clause 19.1 of the Declaration of Trust Deed states that the trust shall continue until termination on the redemption date and upon full and final deposition of the deposited property, that is the Republic Bank shares and the government bonds, in accordance with Clause 19.2 of the Trust Deed, the 2012 Trust Deed. Clause 19.2 states that upon the trust being terminated, the trustee shall distribute the Republic Financial Holding shares, any other assets comprising the deposited property, and the fund income in specie. And if Senator Mark wants to know what in specie is, I may give him a lesson a little later, which is a Latin term meaning in actual form to the unit holders, provided that the trustee shall be entitled to retain out of any monies in its hands any part of the deposited property, full provision for all costs, debts, liabilities, charges, expenses, etc., in accordance with the termination of the fund. As at September the 30th, 2022, the CIF had 6,227 unit holders. In accordance with the trust deed, The deposited property, less the costs of winding up, is to be distributed in specie, which means in actual form, to the unit holders and will be allocated as follows. Unit holders will receive 0.1964 Republic Financial Holdings Limited shares for each unit held. This is calculated as follows. 40,072,299 Republic Financial Holding shares divided by 204 million CIF units. Further, clause 19.2.1 of the trustee states, where the distribution in specie of the Republic Financial Holding shares would result in fractional shares being distributed, the number of shares shall be rounded down to avoid any absurd result. It actually says that. The bonds will be similarly prorated and unit holders will be entitled to 3.445 bonds per unit held. Any residual amount due to unit holders resulting from the above distribution will be paid in cash. The last date for trading of CIF units on the stock exchange will be December the 30th, 2022. From the week of January 2023, the transfer of shares and bonds will commence. Once all transfers have been made and expenses paid, CIF will be deregistered from the stock exchange and wound up. During November, this month, the trustee, Clico Trust Corporation, will place ads in the newspapers advising of the closure of the fund. Letters will be issued to the Stock Exchange and the Securities and Exchange Commission, formally advising of closure of the fund on January the 2nd, 2023, and the lead broker will hold discussions with brokers of the unit holders in the transfer of shares. Those are the facts, not all those conspiracy theories uttered by Senator Mark in his usual manner.